Hey everyone, Tyler here at the Movie Beat, back with another video. This one's going to be a Blu-ray video, so those of you guys who are interested in home media, collecting, all that good stuff, this one is for you, and it is Korean movie focused. So I am making it a personal challenge of myself to not show any previously showcased or shown Blu-rays, so I'm going to that'll try to help me keep things fresh. So this video will not have any titles that I have previously shown in other like top or 10 great type videos. So this one's going to be focusing on, the topic for this one is old school Korean movies that have made it onto Blu-ray. You guys will probably know from my channel, if you've been following, that I'm always sort of harping on that older Korean films just are not being given the HD treatment. Where are they? There are definitely a few of them that I have shown that have made it to Blu-ray, but it's like there are so many good ones and some of my favorites that I have just been patiently waiting for that have not been coming. So that's why I'm kind of going back into DVD world, because, you know, I have to revisit these movies. So this one is going to be Blu-ray focused, and I'm going to give you guys some new ones that I haven't shown yet, and they are definitely from the early days, so old school Korean movies. And they are definitely movies that I would recommend picking up for most people. So maybe you can make your own decision based on the specific title, but these are all movies that I really like and would definitely recommend picking up. So if we're going to be going old school, we're going to start with the oldest one on this list, and it is from a great Korean publisher, Korean Film Archive, that I do believe they have probably been given some type of government support, but this one is called Chusu and Mansu. It's from 1988, and this one was a huge movie for a lot of different reasons. So originally, though, it was adapted from a very successful stage play, but it stars the great legendary Korean actor An Sung-gi and Park Jung-hoon, who their sort of camaraderie in this film was not forgotten by audiences and fans, because these actors actually reunited later in a couple other films. One of them is a great art action style film called Nowhere to Hide that we're definitely waiting for, but that one came out a decade later. But anyways, let's get to this one. This one is really about freedom of expression that involves into more of a anti-establishment type movie, but it really became the film to inspire a new generation of up-and-coming filmmakers to really start taking chances with tackling various social issues as they wanted to present those within film, because it was previously impossible, really, due to a lot of the intense government censorship that took place. So if you guys will remember the great film from 2017, 1987, When the Day Comes. So if you haven't seen that, definitely go check that out. But that movie did, show that huge pro-democracy movement, the big, massive nationwide protests, in the streets, all of that student movement. That was 1987. Okay, so 1 year later, we've got this film. Also, 1988 was when Seoul hosted the Summer Olympics. So this was a big sort of time period in Korea that was kind of to show what they could do and the possibilities. And this one really sort of started it off. So let's take a look at this Blu-ray. So we can see the two actors up there, kind of an iconic scene in the film where they sort of sit on top of a big billboard on top of a building. The great thing about these Korean Film Archive releases is that a lot of them come with a commentary that actually has English subtitles. That is very, very rare for a Korean release to have English subtitles for the commentary. Most of them will have English subtitles for the film, but not the commentary. So this is actually Korean Film Archive number 4, so early release, and that kind of tells you just maybe the importance a little bit. Number 1 was the original Housemaid, which I featured in another video. So another great, awesome thing about the Korean Film Archive releases is the extras. I'm just going to hypothetically say, if you got all of these and you read all of the essays in this book, these books that come with them, there are some great, very informative essays about the time and the nature and some of the hardships that were faced during the production and some of the legacy of these films. It's like university level. You are getting not a crash course, like a very, very good lesson on the history of Korean film. You will become a scholar, if you will, if you do read all of these. So these books have essays in both Korean and English, and I love how a lot of these books will use the old poster art, so it's pretty cool there. Inside, this one has, a lot of pictures, production notes. It talks about the director, so images from the film. This is a color film, even though some of these pictures are black and white here. But yeah, about the director. And we've got, the biography, filmography, about the film essay, a condensed map of the 1980s, visualization of the cityscape, just really, really informative information in here. And some of these releases will also come with a bonus book or different types of booklets and things. This one actually has a photo booklet that it came with. So these ones are all in color, and it does have a lot of behind-the-scenes type production shots that are really, really cool and probably unique, put together for this booklet. There we can see, a signature there. I think that it's the director. So an awesome, awesome edition, awesome release. Sort of what we call kind of that elite keep case. Can see there. Single disc inside. Again, this is definitely one of my favorite old school, I would say, Korean movies that I own. So I think if you guys are going to get into the Korean Film Archive, which is highly recommended, definitely start with a movie like this, Chusu and Mansu. So good, and you're going to learn a lot, like I said, from those booklets. All right, the next one I want to show you is another film that came on the Korean Film Archive, and it is number 9. If you got all of the Korean Film Archive releases, I think they're almost up to like 20 now, so there are quite a few of them, and this is a company that is still in business, so they're still bringing these things out. But number 9, definitely one of my old school Korean movies that I'm so glad to own on Blu-ray, is called Sophionj, and it is directed by Im Kwon-taek, who is probably the most prolific filmmaker in Korean film history. I think he does have well over 100 films that he has made. This one really struck me when I first watched it. It was almost baffling on one side, but fascinating on the other, because it really opened my eyes to a world, a culture, a tradition, music, a domestic life that I really had no prior knowledge of. So this was just like seeing a new world entirely, and I don't think that I completely understood it when I first watched it, because this is definitely a film that I have come to appreciate more after experiencing life here in Korea and learning more about the culture and the history specifically. But there definitely is something about this film that appeals to me, perhaps maybe more specific to me as a person than it might to others, because, I did actually end up moving here to Korea, so there's something, even some of my Korean friends think that I was maybe a Korean in a past life or something like that, but there definitely is some troubling aspects of this movie that also was part of the things that piqued my interest, but that's more of the culture and tradition. It's about a pansori singer. It's a very traditional, artistic style of singing and music here in Korea that it's just completely foreign to me. So it was completely foreign to me, but it has become, really since when I first watched this, it made a spot on my all-time favorite films list, and it is held strong on that list. It's not a huge list. So inside here, it's got a really nice, compared to the other full slip cases from the Korean Film Archive. I think this one is one of the nicer ones because of the black lettering here. It's sort of like indented a little bit. Almost kind of like a calligraphy there. You can feel it. This one also has a commentary, and it's from the film director, it's from another film director, it's from the actor, it's from the actress, it's got the composer on the commentary, so that's just amazing. Whew. There's a commemorative montage for director Im Kwon-taek as a retrospective. They show you some samples of the digital restoration both before and after. And I should have said, even on Chusu and Mansu and on this film, amazing restoration. So they look beautiful in HD despite their age. Okay, so this one, here's the Elite Keep case. So pretty good image there, I think. Inside we can see some of the music festivities, some of the singing and dancing. Again, the costumes and things like that. It was just another world opened up for me on this one. So I gotta recommend Sophionj. It's not one that I would recommend to newcomers of Korean cinema by any means, just based on my experience and what I've heard from others. But for those that have some experience and want to get into it, definitely recommend this one. And I'm very happy that the Korean Film Archive chose this one to put on the Blu-ray label. Okay, so moving on, we're getting a little bit more recent films, but still I would consider them old school. And it's from here on out, all of the Blu-ray titles I'm going to be showing you are from a publisher called Content Zone that is unfortunately no longer in business. And they were really some of the pioneers in bringing out some of these older Korean films on Blu-ray. So it's really unfortunate that just the DVD home media industry was not strong enough to keep them alive. But this is one of them they brought out, and it is definitely one of the best Korean films. This is A Tale of Two Sisters, directed by Kim Ji-woon. This is from 2003, so I would definitely consider it kind of old school from today's standpoint. But when I was living through this time of this film coming out, it was very much new school present. This is new Korean cinema at its finest. You guys will know Kim Ji-woon, the director of A Bittersweet Life, Good, the Bad, the Weird. He's in my list of top 5 Korean film directors, so check out that video. I'll put the link in the description box. This is a pretty cool little lenticular full slip, so you can definitely see the effect there. And inside, again, we've got sort of just the Elite Keep case. But it does the trick. It's enough. Oh, my goodness. My prized possession. So inside there, also pretty nice. So this one does star popular actress who you can still see today, Im Soo-jung and Moon Geun-young, who's not really in a lot of films recently that I've seen, but it's adapted from an old Korean folktale that, features a giant house, it features a stepmother, it features some ghosts, and a lot of dark family secrets. So if you've seen a lot of Korean dark mystery thrillers, that could sound pretty familiar. However, this is one that does it perfectly. It is like really one of the most masterful portrayals of that style that you might think is very familiar. But it is the film from the Korean New Wave one of the films from the Korean New Wave that just grabbed international audiences' attention to focus their eyes on what was happening within the Korean cinema industry. I mean, this is the year that Old Boy and everything came out. So definitely, this is one that gets better with every viewing, and there's so many Korean films from the early 2000s that have not made it on Blu-ray, and this is one of them that just thank you, we got it. Okay, so a lot of these companies are out of business, so I don't know who owns the rights and things like that, but I'm glad this one came out. Tale of Two Sisters, definitely one of the best old school Korean movies that you can get on Blu-ray. All right, this next one is also from Content Zone, and it's part of this digibook collection that originally came out, and it is number 4. This is Untold Scandal that came out in 2003 as well, and it was called this homage collection, and they have like the director's name up top. So this was a sweet, sweet collection that I'm so sad they discontinued. Well, when they went out of business, but you can see from the cover here, we got a little design there. Hopefully they don't pull me off of YouTube for that. Whoa, if you can see that, little risque there, some art. This movie was based on that French novel, Dangerous Liaisons. So if you haven't heard of that, but maybe you've seen the American film Cruel Intentions, imagine that story set in the time of Joseon. And if you don't know what Joseon is, that is the Korea before Korea, old name, really before Japan colonized and came in. So it's got the palaces and the costumes, the hanboks. You guys are going to see a lot of hairstyles and makeup. That is the aspect of this movie that blew me away when I first saw it. I didn't know that kind of set design, makeup, hair, costuming was even possible. If someone would just have shown me that, I would have said, like, that is beautiful, artistic. Who thought of it? Well, it's the culture here. So yeah, these opened up, and a lot of them had like an image board. This one you can see kind of more of the colorful. I like this style a little bit better. There is another edition of this film that came with like a little slipcase that looks more like this, but that one came out a little bit after. There is one thing I noticed when I put this disc in, and I don't know if it's because it's an disc technology or what, because there's a lot of these older, not a lot, but there's a select few of these older Korean films that had some errors with the discs, and the colors do not pop. Because I remember on my DVD edition of this one, the colors were one of the most jaw-dropping qualities of this film. And it just looked a little bit muted from what I remembered, so I had to kind of turn up, boost the saturation a little bit on my TV, and that was just a peculiar thing that I did notice. I'm not sure if anyone else experienced that, but this one stars Bae Young-joon, the legendary actor Bae Young-joon from that hit drama series Winter Sonata. So when at the height of that popularity coming into this film, you know, a little bit risque, there was a lot of buzz surrounding it. This film did really well. It also stars, arguably, in my opinion, Korea's most talented actress, Jun Do-yeon, in one of her, you know, earlier roles that you're going to see her in. So it's all around just a stunning movie, and the plot is really, you know, might be familiar if you've seen those, if you know the story of Dangerous Liaisons, but the whole point is witnessing it play out within the, you know, the confines of the Joseon elite and the royal, kind of the upper class there. So again, Untold Scandal, very happy to own this on Blu-ray. Thank you, Content Zone, for the work that you did giving us this stuff. Okay, so moving on is another Content Zone, and it is part of the Homage collection. It is the film Beat, starring Jung Woo-sung. Whoa, it's an action drama film, and it is definitely one of Jung Woo-sung's first major film roles, but it was the film role that would really solidify him at the top of you know, the acting game, and what really helped make him the star that we know him as today. This one is kind of reminded me a little bit of the 2000 film, I believe it was 2001 film, Friend. It's a gangster film set in the 70s, so this one is kind of like more of the late 90s version of that, in my opinion. The package is super nice. Oh my god. And inside, this was number 6 on the Homage collection. It's about a group of friends who drop out of high school and later get involved in gang life and organized crime. There's also a love story between two young people on very different paths that eventually have to hit a fork in the road. So I love the music. I love the filming style in this film. It definitely makes for one of my favorite old school Korean films that made it on Blu-ray. And this was like a face out title for me for a long time. It still kind of is every now and then, you know, when I kind of change things up. But if you like Jung Woo-sung, it's a must watch. Oh my goodness. So this next one's going to be kind of quick because I do have a full-on review for it on my channel. Sorum, it's a horror film from 2001, also on the Homage collection. This was number 18, so you know they did get pretty deep in the number of titles that they were able to bring out. It's a horror film, but not in like the supernatural or like spiritually possessed way that we're kind of all familiar with nowadays. This one really was a true dark human horror film, really about some of the both literal and metaphorically dark places that humans can go to because of lasting traumas and things like that, and how it affects personal relationships moving forward. So it's kind of a tough one, but it's definitely, this one looks really good on Blu-ray, by the way. It's a great one to own, and I definitely think it's one of the better old school Korean movies that you can get on Blu-ray. So had to include it in this list, and I wasn't able to get a chance to show off this one in that review. So there it is right there. Beautiful Sorum. I'll put the link for the review in the description box. All right, the next one is another film from master Korean film director Kim Ji-woon, who, like I said, is on my top 5 Korean filmmakers list. This is The Foul King. Just amazing, funny, dark comedy film starring Song Kang-ho as like a really unsuccessful bank clerk who has always dreamed of becoming a professional wrestler, and one day, you know, gets the opportunity to try out and become this grand amateur, on the amateur circuit, professional wrestler. So maybe it helped me watching a lot of pro wrestling growing up to really get into this one. But this is definitely one of the movies that made Song Kang-ho one of my favorite Korean actors, and also one of the things that helped me to follow this director's career, which turned out to be one for the ages. But unlike some of the other Content Zone digibooks, this one has a big photo book inside, which was pretty cool. There's a couple other releases of The Foul King that came out. There's like a lenticular version, and there's another little full slip. But I really like in this film because this character is like insecure, underperforming, and he just decides to follow his dream and becomes almost larger than life. The mask gives him this confidence, and it's got some real laugh out loud moments for me. And plus, it's like Song Kang-ho doing professional wrestling, so I love it. And I'm so glad that this one made it to Blu-ray. Thank you, Content Zone. Let me know what you guys think of this one. This is definitely one of my favorites. All right, Homage Collection number 5, another earlier one. This is Kim Ki-duk's Spring, Summer, Fall, Winter, and Spring. So it's Kim Ki-duk is also one of my top 5 best Korean film directors. I'll put the link in the description box below so you can check out a little bit more on my thoughts on this director specifically, but this one is very interesting in a lot of different ways. It follows the life of a Buddhist monk from childhood late into his old age. He lives a very secluded life in nature, really the beautiful place, far away from the modern world and all of the worries and cares that, you know, you and we deal with on a daily basis. And I think it shows it shows like some of the drawbacks, some of the benefits of that kind of a lifestyle, but it definitely puts the Buddhist philosophy it presents it in a visual way that I really had never seen before. Very beautifully portrayed in this film, again, through the seasons, obviously, but just showing how that sort of a lifestyle can affect our understanding of ourselves, our place in nature, and how we interact with nature. There's a very alluring quality about this movie, even though it's pretty slow. I would definitely label this like an art film, so definitely it could bore some people with different tastes, but I just enjoy it immensely. I do think it's one of the director's best works. This disc, it should be noted, it does say it has English subtitles on the back, but it does not. So it's a very strange thing that there's no option for English subtitles, and you can't choose it. So some of these earlier ones did not have English subtitles. Every other one that I showed you so far did, but this one doesn't. The good news is there is not much speaking in this film. It's a Kim Ki-duk movie. They're kind of par for the course, but the speaking in this one is very minimal, so you could get away without seeing it, but if you have seen it before and you don't mind that, definitely this Blu-ray is the way to go. Kim Ki-duk, number 5, Homage Collection. By the way, that one was from 2003 as well, so a lot of these are kind of from the same time period. This one, 1 year earlier, one of the last ones I'm going to show you, it's called Marriage is a Crazy Thing, or Crazy Marriage. This one was directed by Yu Ha, who went on to make some of my favorite Korean movies like Once Upon a Time in High School, A Dirty Carnival. He's just had a pretty interesting career. But this one is one that I saw in my early days of watching Korean movies, so there's definitely some nostalgia attached to this one, and owning it on Blu-ray for me. It stars Jung-hwa and Kam Woo-sung, and it portrays marriage in a very unique way that is specific, I would say, to Korean culture and societal norms, modern societal norms. But I think there was always something about this film that piqued my interest, regardless of some of the qualities in it, of the story especially, that went over my head the first time I watched it. But that became more clear to me after living here and going to many people's weddings. But the thing that helped me the most was having adult students that I would teach that would talk to me for a long time about relationships and expectations and just sort of the weight of the family that goes into the decisions of marriage and all of that. Also, you can sort of see how institutionalized marriage has become in some of the big wedding halls and things like that. But I think specifically the blind date culture I wasn't too familiar with, and how that went over my head, and how people are meeting people, and sort of it's more of an interview process trying to find somebody with the right specs to make a suitable partner, where love in the traditional sense has kind of been more tacked on as like a bonus. It's like an extra perk. It would be nice, but it's not required. And so I can see how this movie could be divisive a little bit, but and its critique of the modern state of marriage culture here in Korea, but a very it's worth being said. It's definitely something that I can see taking notice of, and something I've noticed as well being here. So again, Marriage is a Crazy Thing, Crazy Marriage, one of the old school Korean films that I'm very glad to own on Blu-ray. So if I could put together a wish list of old school Korean movies that have not yet come to Blu-ray, it would be pretty long. So I'm just going to pick a couple just right off the bat that have not given the HD treatment yet, that I'm every day waking up wondering, where are they? Save the Green Planet is one that I hope comes within my lifetime on Blu-ray. Guns and Talks is one of my early favorite Korean movies that I would love to own on Blu-ray, as well as my first Korean movie that I ever saw, Shiri. Please come to Blu-ray. I also threw out this question to some of my Patreon supporters, and Lee Mason, he responded with some great picks. He wants Nowhere to Hide, YMC Baseball, Public Enemy, The Show Must Go On, and Crying Fist, and I have to second all of his picks, second, third, fourth, fifth. Let's get these on Blu-ray. These would be amazing titles for any Blu-ray publisher willing to take the risk, I guess. There is probably some financial risk involved in putting these out, but I think there is money to be made. Whoever's out there making Blu-ray decisions, let's get it going. Let's try to get the rights, good remasters, HD treatment, a lot of old school Korean movies we are willing and waiting to buy up and add to our home media collection. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, seeing some old school Korean movies that have made it to Blu-ray. Please let me know in the comments what old school Korean movies you would like to see on Blu-ray, for one, that have not made it yet, and two, what are some of your favorite old school Korean movies that have arrived on Blu-ray. So again, thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time, I'm Tyler at The Movie Beat. keep watching movies.